All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just getting set up here. Give me just a momento, and we'll get this show on the road. No severe weather warnings are in effect right now, but it looks like that may be changing sooner rather than later. So we're just going to go ahead and get things set up so we are ahead of the curve. Again, no severe weather warnings at this point. But we might, just might, have some before long. Make sure everything's set up. Make sure all the settings are correct. I'm going to turn the gain down on this. That way, we are good to go. I don't need this. That. Severe warning for Windstar. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Boldy-in-Chief David Reimer. Live right now on the Texas Storm Chasers YouTubes and our Twitch channel. It's 1:57. Let's go ahead and be clear. We have no severe weather warnings at this time. We have zilch, nada, zero. We have a line of strong thunderstorms extending from near Windstar, Thackerville, Oklahoma, southwest to Decatur, down coming up on Aledo, east side of Weatherford. Notice some of those curlies right there. We're going to talk about those in a minute. That's why we're live. And then a broken, frankly, marginal line of storms southwest of there. Stephenville, Comanche, down to Goldthwaite. We'll switch radars down to central Texas, and you'll see we have showers extending further southwest into the eastern Concho Valley, western hill country. Strongest storms by far currently extend from the Red River from near Windstar World Casino southwest into the Metroplex. So, again, no severe weather warnings right now, but we are a little concerned because we are starting to see areas of spin. For example, with this thunderstorm coming up on Annetta South Aledo, seen a pretty good surge of wind coming in on the backside of this thunderstorm, what we call the rear flank downdraft. In fact, you can see the latest scan coming on in now. As I said in my detailed blog post earlier, we're more concerned about isolated spin-up tornadoes and damaging straight-line winds versus supercells. Example, this is a line of storms. That being said, this line of storms is exhibiting some modest supercellular characteristics and definitely not your typical squall line in the sense of just a line of storms north to south. You can see we have some inks in there, and those are going to be where we have the potential for some straight line winds over 60 miles an hour at times, and the potential for some minor spinning mischief. Minor being the key word. Let's be clear here. We could have tornado warnings over the next couple of hours, but we're not expecting long track tornadoes like we saw last Monday. And thank God we're not expecting 36 tornadoes like we saw last Monday. That being said, if we end up having a little baby tornado spin up over the coming hour or two and it happens to head down your street, it's going to be a big deal for you. So that's why we're here. And that's why we want folks to pay attention. So let me go ahead. We're going to turn on the Facebook feeds and we'll welcome our audience. So with that being said, I had to press a few buttons here, and we'll get this show on the road. Stand by. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Boldy-in-Chief David Reimer. It is 2:01 a.m. on Wednesday, the 30th of March, 2022. Line of strong storms now beginning to move east into the DFW Metroplex. We have no severe weather warnings at this time. Minus a severe storm warning up at WinStar World Casino. Could have some small hail, gusty winds, locally damaging winds. On Interstate 35 from near Marietta down to the Red River, including WinStar World Casino and Thackerville. We got a line of storms. Could have wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour, extending from near Munster, west to Gainesville, southwest to Decatur, Boyd, Springtown, Azle, down to Annetta, coming into Benbrook, and now east of Granbury, coming up on Godley in northwest Johnson County. Again, no severe weather warnings at this time. We do have a tornado watch in effect for, a good chunk of North Texas, Texoma, and Northeast Texas, and that tornado watch runs through 7 a.m. Central Time. It will be canceled from west to east as this line of storms progresses east. Once this line of storms makes it through your area, the threat for severe storms will conclude. Most of y'all across, frankly, the eastern half of Texas, if not most of Texas, are enjoying, and I use the word enjoy, West Johnson County. Again, sarcastically, and that would be because we have winds gusting up to 55 miles an hour. Those are gradient winds because we have winds just above the surface at about 2,000 to 3,000 feet screaming out of the south at a good 60 to 80 miles an hour. And some of those winds are being transported down to the surface. Hence, it's a very windy night across the state. That being said, no severe weather warnings right now, but we're just going to keep an eye on the storms as we like to do as they move into a highly populated area. You can see this is the how hard it's raining mode. No severe weather warnings right now. Let's switch over to the how hard, or excuse me, not the how hard it's blowing mode, but the which way the winds are blowing mode. You can see we're seeing the winds in green moving towards the radar down in the Burleson area. Winds in red moving away. And you can see pinks all over Collin County. That's because we have the low-level jet screaming at about 70 to 80 miles an hour. Couple thousand feet above the surface, and the farther away you go from the radar site down in Burleson, higher up the radar beam gets above the Earth's surface. Earth curves, radar beam does not. Contrary to the flat Earth theorist, who we won't insult this morning, but, well, if you're watching this video, this is a science channel, a science video. It's not a conspiracy theorist channel. All right, so we are seeing a pretty good little surge of wind on the on the Parker Tarrant Johnson County line. It's going to be, radar's honestly indicating winds of about 60 to 70 miles an hour in a very small area. It's going to be just west of Crowley, northeast of 377 and 171. Let me turn on the telestrator, and we'll get some roads on here. Again, no severe weather warnings in effect right now, but we're going to be keeping an eye on things for some gusty winds, and there is the potential we could have a few brief tornadoes this morning. Not dealing with anything like we did last Monday, mind you. We're not expecting long-lived tornadoes. We're not expecting 36 tornadoes, but nevertheless, a tornado warning, if we have one at some point this morning, is a tornado warning, and you need to respect it. Even if it's a small, brief tornado, and it's like trying to pin the tail on a donkey on the weather map, you still got to respect the warnings. Even a small, brief tornado, assuming it comes down your street, is more than enough to cause quite a bit of a headache for you. So, we take warnings seriously, whether they're baby, small tornadoes, or what we experienced last Monday, which we don't want to do anytime again soon. So, let's go ahead, and I want to point out a few features for y'all, except that is, there we go. Let me go ahead and turn off that. We'll turn off that. I'm going to switch to a different radar mode that takes into account storm motions. So what we're going to be looking for this morning, we're not dealing with supercells. You can see we're dealing with generally a squall line. This is a meteorological mumbo-jumbo called a quasi-linear convective system, QLCS. That's the way the fancy meteorologists earn their paycheck and make themselves sound smart. It's a squall line. It's a line of storms. It's simple as that, squall line. So, we're going to be looking for our little kinks where we have just enough wind pushing out from the rear flank downdraft of some of these areas where we could have some brief circulation spin up in addition to the potential for some damaging straight line winds. And I'll tell you now, area of rotation there, area of weak rotation there, area of weak rotation there. So we're watching multiple areas of weak rotation, some gusty winds, maybe up to 55 miles an hour in spots, move into western Tarrant County. If any of these were to tighten up or intensify, they could produce a brief tornado. No signs we have that ongoing this second, which is why we don't have a tornado warning in effect. So we'll wait and see. As we switch over to a different mode, this just shows us how strong the straight line winds might be. We're seeing winds just south of 1187 and Lake Benbrook. A little area of what might be 60-mile-an-hour winds on radar, which would typically warrant a severe thunderstorm warning, but it is so small and hopefully limited in duration. We don't have any warnings right now. So that being said, we have no severe weather warnings in the state of Texas right now. I'll zoom out and make sure. Yeah, we don't. We are watching just in case we have little areas of brief circulation spin up in addition to damaging straight line winds. We don't see that right now. You can see line of storms. They're loud, they're proud, a lot of cloud ground lightning, gusty winds. I mean, it's been windy all night ahead of these storms, but wind direction will shift out of the west versus screaming out of the south from near Windstar World Casino in Thackerville, Oklahoma, down across the Red River, Gainesville, west of Valley View, coming on into western Denton County right now, coming near Crum, Ponder, down into Rome in southeast Wise County, Reno, Azle, Aledo, Annetta South, moving into western Tarrant County from Parker County. Ooh, that came out. Down into Johnson County, just scattered showers, thunderstorms, and then some stronger storms, maybe some small hail, and gusty winds. Stephenville, west of Avant. And again, these areas need rain. I mean, Eastland Complex, I think, is 90% contained. Hopefully get some rain from this, and that'll bump the containment up a bit, hopefully. But at this point, we're just watching storms. So, again, those of you who watched us last Monday, realized that I can be serious when we need to be, but you can tell we're a little more jovial right now. We're just keeping an eye on the storms. We know a lot of folks are nervous after last week. We know a lot of folks have frayed nerves. So, again, this is springtime in Texas. This is a typical, well, we deal with it all year, but a typical overnight storm threat. Some of the storms are going to have strong winds and maybe a couple of brief tornadoes, but by far, you can see we're behaving ourselves right now. No severe thunderstorm warnings in the state of Texas. The only severe thunderstorm warning near Texas right now is for a little line segment with some strong winds. Now east of Interstate 35 from Marietta, Oklahoma. That's about 15 miles north of the Red River on 35, if you know the mile markers. Down to Windstar World Casino, which is about mile marker 1 to 3. And then Thackerville, Oklahoma, which is mile marker 5 on I-35. This little line segment will be moving up towards Tishomingo, Medill, western sides of Lake Texoma here in southern Oklahoma. Could have wind gusts over 60 miles an hour. That's enough to knock some tree limbs down, power outages. By chance you're on the lake, and you shouldn't be on the lake at 2 a.m., might be enough to cause some damage to boat docks if the highest winds hit there. But otherwise, you can see a lot of lightning. You're allowed to talk, by the way.
Oh, I know.
A lot of lightning. Rather heavy rain, lasting 10 minutes. Gusty winds. As we look at which way the winds are a spinning mode, yeah, we have a few areas of weak rotation, and frankly, that's to be expected. We've got wind shear bonker total amount this morning. That was legible. We've got a lot of wind shear this morning. And that's not atypical for events like this in the middle of the night. But what we're just watching to see is, are we going to have any little areas of rotation spin up? As you can see, we're not really dealing with discrete storms. We've got a broken line of storms from Marietta and Thackerville, Oklahoma, Windstar World Casino, Gainesville, west of Sainer, coming up to Ponder and Crum in Denton County, to Azle, west sides of Fort Worth, down into northern Johnson County. Frankly, most of this activity is exhibiting your garden variety shower and thunderstorm activity. Not severe in the sense of winds over 58 miles an hour, quarter-size hail or larger, and of course tornadoes. None of that going on right now. And yeah, some good rain, to be frank. So, reason we're here is we're just keeping an eye on some of these areas of weak rotation, just in case they spin up. They could do so in a pretty quick hurry. But even if we do have an area of rotation spin up quickly, they usually don't last very long, which is why it's like trying to pin the tail on the donkey on the weather map. They just end up literally, they may only last a minute or two, the circulations. By the time you put a warning on them, they're gone already. So, again, we're just watching. Still seeing an area of maybe 55-mile-an-hour winds west of Crowley now, east of 377. Coming up to the Chisholm, say it for me, Chisholm. Thank you. Trail Parkway in Crowley. You can see the latest radar scan there. And again, these are not considered severe winds. Winds had to be over 58 miles an hour to be considered severe, and these are not. We're seeing winds about 50 miles an hour, and again, we're looking down the street from the radar. Radar is over here in North Burleson, East Crowley. This is like 3-4 miles west of there, so some gusty winds for sure, but not what we'd consider severe. Definitely enough to break some tree limbs off, maybe damage a weakened fence, or by chance we still have any dead trees from the winter storm, or the week of hell from last February. It might be enough to knock some of those trees down. But again, we're not seeing anything that would concern us right now in terms of spinny mischief imminent, or any sort of hail or big-time damaging winds. These are generally your garden variety thunderstorms. They're loud, they're proud, they're going to blow for a few minutes, it's going to pour for a few minutes, and then everything will settle on down, and we'll have Crashy the cold front come on in behind this line of storms later this morning. Speaking of which, we actually have another pretty nasty fire weather threat today. I'll turn that on real quick. You can see we've got we've got a day one critical fire weather risk again in the Panhandle, Northwest Texas. This is for later today, Wednesday. Chance for significant wildfire behavior across the southern half of Texas. So, that's just par for the course when you're in La Nina and end up having a drought during the winter. So, again, right now, if we were to be monitoring anything in detail, it'd be a few areas of weak circulation in Tarrant County. Again, weak being the operative word here. No tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings, nothing that screams, hey, I'm about to drop a tornado on your roof. So let's be abundantly clear, since we have no warnings right now, I'm just here to soothe minds and kind of be nerdy because I'm a weather weenie and that's what we do. Real quick, though, I'm going to turn the AC unit down a few degrees because it's a little toasty.
And severe thunderstorm watch has expired for Comanche, Eastland, Rathwood, Jack, Mills, Joe, Parker. So essentially, NWS is beginning to expire the watch from the west.
Yeah. So, again, couple notes here. We're just chatting. No tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings, nothing to write home about right now. We're just here chatting because we know storms moving into populated areas, and we also know a lot of folks are nervous after last week, and this is not last week, that's for sure. This is a low-end severe weather threat with the potential for a few brief tornadoes and localized damaging winds over 60 miles an hour. We're not dealing with discrete storms. We're not dealing with long-track tornadoes. We're not dealing with 36 tornadoes. That being said, if by chance we do have a tornado warning or two this morning in any part of North Texas, Northeast Texas, Texoma, you still treat it seriously. What do? Well, that part's easy, and we'll go over it. First off, no trailers, no mobile homes, no vehicles. No parking under a highway overpass. If you're in a tornado warning and you're traveling, get to a sturdy site-built structure. Gas station, fast food restaurant, little hotel. Hop on in, take shelter, interior hallway, lowest floor, center room. Put as many walls between you and the outside as the primary goal this morning. I typically say take shelter in a basement, but unless you're in a very urban corridor where you have a basement available in a commercial building, that's not going to happen in the state. And a majority of folks don't have safe rooms or tornado shelters, although it'd be a good idea. Let's be honest, they cost a lot of money, so... Otherwise, again, You can keep an eye on the sky. Texas Storm Chasers interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar. You can track the storms down the street in your neighborhood or across the country. We're going to have a major severe weather outbreak and possible tornado outbreak again today in places like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas. They're probably going to have what we call a derecho. Area of very long-lived, intense straight-line winds. Could exceed 80 to 100 miles an hour. And with that, they're probably going to have a few dozen tornadoes, too. So, they're going to be busy later today. We're very fortunate here in Texas. We are going to mostly bypass that severe weather outbreak this time around, unlike last week. But again, line of storms moving east at about 30 to 40 miles an hour, now extending from the east side of Gainesville, coming up to Whitesboro, southwest to Sanger in northern Denton County on Interstate 35, coming into West Fort Worth and Crowley. And then, generally speaking, areas of moderate to locally heavy rainfall, a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning extending all the way south into portions of southern North Texas, Waxahachie, Hillsboro, West Stephenville down to Hamilton. A little bit of a stronger storm coming up into Hamilton. Could have pea-size hail, wind gust up to 45 miles an hour. But again, we're not dealing with anything severe right now. So to be severe, you have to have wind gusts over 58 miles an hour. Hail has to be at least 1 inch in diameter or larger. That's the size of a quarter. And, of course, a tornado. A tornado does tend to fit the bill in terms of being severe. What's going on right now? The only severe weather warning we have, shown here in orange, is north of the Red River, moving towards Medill and Tishomingo, Oklahoma, moving northeast, northwest side of Lake Texoma. Again, this will be up near Tishomingo, crossing over Highway 69 up in Oklahoma, which is Highway 75 in Texas. It'll be crossing over that in about 30 minutes, a good 40, 50 miles north of Red River. Storms in Texas, again, not severe. Gusty winds at the moment. I mean, we got gusty winds ahead of this line. We've had gusty winds most of the night, up to 50 miles an hour. It's a windy night, that's for sure. These storms may produce winds similar to that, except the wind direction will be out of the west. A lot of cloud-to-ground lightning in spots. Maybe some hail. Pocket change size hail, and at this point, the pocket change size hail would be in the form of a dime. Pea-size hail. That's not pocket change, but yeah, eat your peas. And otherwise, we're just watching, making sure we don't have any sort of spinning mischief ongoing, and we don't see any of that. Nothing that screams, hey, I'm a tornado about to happen, blow the sirens, squeal like a pig. None of that's going on right now. You can see, frankly, the activity south of Interstate 20 is disorganized. You can see it's mainly just showers with some embedded thunderstorms. North of Interstate 20, a comparatively more organized line of storms that extends from West Fort Worth up to west of Denton, Crum, Sanger, Valley View, east side of Gainesville, coming up to Whitesboro and Grayson County. And again, organized is a relative term in this case. They're not severe. Winds 40, maybe 50 miles an hour out of the west, even though we've had 50-mile-an-hour winds out of the south most of the night, though, so far. No hail, mostly. Maybe some pea-sized hail. That's a 1/4 inch, which is well below the 1 inch requirement for a severe weather warning. And we don't have any indications of strong low-level rotation or tornadic mischief at this time. So, plenty of rain now falling in portions of Tarrant, Dallas counties. Showers, thunderstorms. Again, gusty winds continuing inside and out of the showers and thunderstorms thanks to gradient winds. We'll switch over to the which way the wind's blowing mode. And, I mean, green here. Well, here, let me draw. Which is a horrific thing to do to people with my drawing skills. But you can see. Green winds moving towards the radar in Fort Worth generally. So you got outflow winds coming out of the west. We don't really see any indications of strong inflow here. We'd be looking for bright red against bright green, and we just don't see that in this case. You could see, switching back over to the how hard it's raining mode, the data will update, but we're just not seeing any sort of strong rotation right now. So again, garden variety showers and thunderstorms, pretty much what we need. We need the rain, and that's what we're getting. Lines moving east at about 40 miles per hour. So, switch Over, we're going to press some buttons.
Yay, buttons.
Buttons. We'll turn on the chat button. Let me go ahead and filter some of these cities, and we'll look at the tornado watch we have in effect. Right. I'm going to turn off radar data for just a moment. And the yellow box here, that is a tornado watch that goes until 7 a.m. Central Time this morning. Now, this watch, the western edge of this watch, essentially is where the squall line is right now. If you're west of the squall line, you're done with any sort of severe weather threat tonight. East of the squall line, the reason we have a tornado watch is we have a lot of low-level wind shear. We have a lot of wind shear. Winds are screaming. Those of y'all out and about realize that. Those of you who have been woken up this morning know that. We have a lot of winds, both at the surface and aloft. As this line of storms continues to move east, there's a chance, I'm not going to say it's a high chance, but there's a chance, it's not zero, that we could have a few brief tornadoes, in addition to some localized damaging straight-line winds up to 70 miles an hour. So far this morning, these storms have been behaving. Back west earlier, they were more impressive. We had some golf ball size hail southeast of San Angelo. We had some 65-mile-an-hour winds in San Angelo. We had some strong winds western North Texas, northwest Texas with this line, but again, so far it is behaving itself across North Texas. We're watching some areas of weak transient rotation, but nothing that has come close to producing spinning mischief of doom. And again, no indications of severe weather right now in the terms of damaging winds over 58 miles an hour. No signs of anything close to being capable of producing quarter-size hail. And we're not seeing any indications right now of strong low-level rotation that would be a cause for concern. That being said, sometimes we can see leading edges of these squall lines start to notch out a bit, and that can result in, one, an increased threat for some damaging straight-line winds, and two, the potential for a brief tornado. And so far, we're not really seeing that. Now, down here in Tarrant County, line of storms coming up on 35W now from Texas Motor Speedway all the way down to downtown Fort Worth. Again, we're not seeing any indications of strong straight-line winds right now, maybe some winds of 40 miles an hour. You'll note we have a lot of showers and even thunderstorms developing east of the line of storms. Across Hillsborough, up into Ellis County, Waxahachie, up into Dallas County, across southern and central Dallas County, some heavy rainfall occurring. A couple of cloud ground lightning strikes in Arlington. But otherwise, and thankfully, this is all relatively disorganized and being quite behaved at the moment, which is good. We like it when things behave. We don't want David to be talking for 10 hours on a live stream like he did last Monday. Let me tell you, we don't want that again anytime soon, if ever. That was quite enough to deal with. Nevertheless, we shall enjoy the caffeine. Got anything to say, Mr. Jones?
So far, you have pretty much covered it to where everything seems to be behaving as it's moving across the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. We do have that severe thunderstorm warning near the WinStar Casino that is moving now east of the I-35 corridor and is moving towards Madill, Oklahoma. There could be the chance that we could see some damaging winds across extreme southern Oklahoma here, butting up against the Red River. But so far, we have really nothing too much going on that David hasn't covered already.
So yeah, thank you to Mr. Stephen Jones of Tornado Intercept for that. We share our little office here. We have... How many computer monitors do we have? Well, let's see. We have a wall-mounted TV. 1, 2, 3. I'll let him count.
13 plugged in and operational right now, plus 2 or 3 more that we could technically plug in. So we have 13 monitors operational right now.
Yeah, it's a wonder we haven't blown fuses. It goes without saying, we have our own AC specific for this room, because they can get toasty. So, again, useful when you need them, but at the moment, everything is being behaved, which is what we want to see. So, assuming that continues, we'll be able to sign off here at 2:30 a.m., and we'll keep an eye on things, of course, but we're thankful to report all is well with the world at the moment, at least in the weather world of North Texas and thunderstorms. Pop back on over, take a full screen look here at what's going on. Again, in fact, I'll just do this. Press that. I'll just load a 1-hour loop. Loop will load eventually. Might actually have to reset the program, so I'll just do that real quick. Reset the program to make it happy. I cannot sing that, or else a copyright strike will happen. Oh yeah, I'll just loop us over the last 3 hours across the state. Make sure we've got our weather warnings on. See, this is just over the last several hours across the state of Texas. Severe thunderstorm watch in blue across the Concho Valley, Big Country, Northwest Texas earlier. That expired at 2 a.m. The yellow shaded box is a tornado watch that runs through 7 a.m. for areas east of this squall line. If you're west of the squall line, your threat of severe is done. That'll be the case for all the Metroplex by 3:30 a.m., I think. And even then, you can see we've had few severe weather warnings. Outside of the Concho Valley earlier this morning, we haven't really had any, which is good news. Storms have been relatively behaved. We need the rain. We're not dealing with any sort of wind in terms of thunderstorm-produced wind that could knock trees down or cause power outages. It's windy across the state. There's no doubt about that, but that's because of the gradient winds, the upper-level storm system, and an intensifying area of low pressure located across central Oklahoma. That's what's causing the gradient winds across the state this morning. It's not the thunderstorms. Storms themselves, honestly, at this point may have less intense winds for the most part than the actual winds ongoing ahead of the storms. That being said, we are keeping an eye out for a non-zero. It's not a super high threat, but it's not zero either. Threat for a few brief tornadoes this morning and areas of localized, damaging straight-line winds. The hail threat remains very low this morning. Some folks are getting pea-size hail. I'd be very impressed if we actually had thunderstorms produce quarter-size hail, or even larger this morning. And as you can see, at least over the last hour, storms themselves have been mostly behaved. You can see a single severe thunderstorm warning up by Thackerville and Marietta, Oklahoma, near WinStar World Casino. No severe weather warnings in the state of Texas. Storms themselves are relatively disorganized right now. We'll be keeping an eye out for signs of spinning low-level rotation, but otherwise, we are doing well. We need the rain. We don't need the spinnies. We don't need the tornadoes. We don't need damaging wind. We've got exactly what we've needed so far. Will that continue throughout the morning? I can't guarantee that in Northeast Texas. There still may be a few tornado warnings, and if there are, we'll be back and be doing live coverage for that. But otherwise, it's just rain in the Metroplex. If that changes, we'll be back in a hurry. But otherwise, y'all enjoy the rain. Interactive weather radar on the Texas Storm Chasers website, texasstormchasers.com/radar. You can keep an eye on the storms and their intensity. And of course, feel free to download the free Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers in the Google Play or Apple App Store. You'll find us. Weather radar is in there too, and you'll also have a couple of other useful features like a rapid update feed and our weather blog. So I'm David Reimer with the Texas Storm Chasers. Thank you for tuning in this morning. It's 2:30 a.m. We'll be back if necessary. Otherwise, y'all have a great morning, and God bless.